Hello, how are you doing? This is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I used to do reporting a very, very long time ago. I even ask strangers, like when I'm in the grocery store and various places, unless, I think somebody's like looking at me like I'm, they're afraid of me or something because I'm covered in tattoos. I usually don't come across that way, but I do ask strangers stuff. I have no issue nor any hesitations about asking people what they think about what's going on, and I'll ask an enormous amount of people in this particular city, Lexington, which is extremely normal. The economy is always extremely insulated here when things are really bad. The economy is still good here. Like Louisville, for example, which I can't stand, is, well, let's just call it slightly woke. Economy gets bad, things get bad in Louisville, but they stay kind of right down the middle of the road here in Lexington. I don't know if it's because it's a college town, but I've asked about theft and people that I know at various places, and theft, meaning shoplifting, is up big time. There's a few people at a couple different grocery stores. I've asked them about that, and they said it's just way up. Asking at Lowe's, several different Home Depots. They just let everybody go. This theft is way up. They even now have put the rolls of electrical wiring behind a cage at both Lowe's and Home Depot. I don't know if you know what the scrap price of like a small roll of copper wire is, but it's not much. But now that's behind a cage. Kind of ironically, most of the rolls were so small that you could stick your hand through the large square grating and pull the rolls out. So the cage absolutely did nothing as far as shoplifting protection. I notice people have gotten unhinged. There's an old Marine saying, it goes, there's three types of people in the world: sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs. And in other words, you have the sheep, which are the spineless food for the wolves, the predators, people that take advantage of anything that they see as weak. And that is just natural order, sheeps and wolves. I mean, just like, gators and wildebeest. The gators will actually wait in the shallow end and wait for the wildebeest to come down for a drink because it's so brutally dry, and then go after one. And sometimes they'll hit them and not get them because they're strong, and the weak ones are gotten, and that, of course, is natural order. Sheepdogs, of course, look after the sheep, but there's really a fourth type, and that would be the landowners. Yeah, so you got the sheeps, the wolves, and the sheepdogs, which that old Marine sang, and I don't know where it originated from. It's generally accurate, but there is a fourth type, and I'd like to talk about that after a while. Those are the landowners, people that actually control the sheepdogs, control the sheeps, and vis-a-vis particular tools that landowners have, they also, too, can and do control the wolves. People are getting really, really unhinged, and I have a lot of situational awareness. I used to teach about situational awareness as a concealed carry instructor. That's DOCJT, Department of Criminal Justice Training Division. And I'd love to read your comment on this, by the way. This is an important video, and it's something that people need to consider about what's going on around them. Most people are completely oblivious and have, unfortunately, no situational awareness at all. Right now what's happening, and this is kind of a variant of my videos about what's going on, but it is not, it's about one specific area here, about people being unhinged, is that credit cards are running dry. People haven't been able to make ends meet. Right after this video, I've got an ostrich belt to make and a wallet. I work 7 days a week. I mean, I see how expensive food has gotten. A lot of food has doubled in price. I know, said the fat guy, right? You should just eat less. You're too fat. Yeah, I know someone's going to say that. Anyway, people, I don't have a credit card, by the way. I haven't had a credit card in years. Credit cards are running dry for people. The food keeps going up and up and up. Bills keep going up, especially energy bills keep going up. There's a lack of representation. People feel like they're not being heard, they're suffering horribly, and it's not just the United States. A lot of Americans, maybe it's because they're not on social media and don't hear from basically every country in the world like I do, That the same things that are happening here, people are like, it's just a current, bad guy in the White House, and that's why things suck right now, and it'll get better. It's like, no, this is happening globally. Most places globally. Ireland, France, Scotland, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, especially Australia, especially Canada, Belgium, Netherlands, Romania, Czech, on and on and on and on. It's just every damn place in this world. There's a lack of law and order, and it's getting bad, and I've heard from a lot of Western countries, people that live there, they tell me the exact same thing. People really are going against natural order here, which of course human beings have done since time immemorial, but things are getting really bad, and there's a lot of things that are conspiring to be the last straw, the last straw that broke the camel's back. Inverse polarities of different types of insanity, where people have no rational, logical mind, and they are two inverse polarities of the same magnet, if you will, is cowardice, where people are spineless jellyfish, and just rabid insanity, where people are unhinged. Now, I know the media is completely untrustworthy, and they'll single out one thing, and they'll take one little thing happening in one place of the world, and they'll magnify it, like, oh my God, look at this horrible thing that happened in New York, and make it like it's happening all over the place, because they are peddlers in fear. They always have been. So I'm not interested in pointing out a couple examples, but it really is getting worse. And I ask a lot of people, not only including you people, but people here. I mean, if it's happening in this town where the economy is really good and things are generally pretty, always have been, isolated from like, when things get bad, certain towns get hit really fast, really bad. That doesn't happen here, but it is happening here. And not only that, I don't even have to ask people. I can see it, that it is. One was, I can't give the specifics because these involve acts which are heinous, but one guy steals a bunch of stuff from, you can look this up on a video in a Bing or Google search. A dollar store, they call it a dollar store here in the United States. Things are really cheap. They're like $3 or less, and the guy steals a basket full of stuff on his bicycle, and he thinks he's made his way, and a Ring doorbell captures, I don't know if it's a worker or the owner of the dollar store. That person takes their car. I mean, thankfully, the guy riding the bicycle, who shouldn't have stolen all that stuff. And I'm not taking up for either side on this. Obviously, that shouldn't have been done. The cops should have been called, but actions have consequences, but inactions have as well. The fact that people know, by and large, no matter where you live at in this world, generally, and especially in the United States, that law and order is not going to show up. I've been telling people that for decades. One of my favorite authors, his name is Massad Ayub. He used to be a police officer. He runs LFI, and he's an expert on concealed carry and whatnot, and justification, and keeping your emotions in check. And I'm an expert on forced de-escalation, when you can and can't. You can't talk about that in concealed carry classes because it's a government class, but when there's no law and order, there is a void, and when the void is there, then you actually have chaos and other bad things happen. People are like, well, you're just pointing out a particular instance or two. But this is kind of happening widespread across the United States, and it's getting worse because people are becoming more and more unhinged. Another one, she was just fired from Hunter College. I'm not going to give you the details of what this professor did, but they just fired her today. There was this literature, shall we say, in the college, and there's video, a complete total video, that she lost her mind and she's flinging stuff, just a completely unhinged person. So the New York Post went to her door and was going to ask her some questions. It's a genuine journalistic agency, and I don't agree with the media, because they're such liars and they're all about spreading fear. I know all of that. I know. I could see through that. But this teacher, if you will, who worked at a college, of course she's not anymore, she's fired, she came out with, I can't even tell you the tool that she came out with. Let's just say it was something like really large, like this. and did something incredibly illegal to the reporter. You know, put it right here. I'm not going to say. It's just a level of unhinged. I know you're going to go, well, that's just one instance. And you're right, it is. But it's happening all over the place. I've seen instances here where people are being chased out of the store. One guy I know, I'm not going to give his name, he was a really great guy who worked at Lowe's. And as a guy pushed out a cart full of DeWalt tools, it's just about a half a mile from here. And he's putting it in his truck. And he said, you know, I got your license plate. He's trying to be a good employee. None of these companies care about you. And this is another thing that escalates it, too. Not only do these companies treat their employees bad and not pay them enough to keep their refrigerator full of groceries. This guy tried to be a good person. I got your driver's license, you know, your license plate. And the thief says, I don't care, and said some explicatives and drove off. Well, instead of the cops going after the thief, which the cops don't care anymore, generally, about theft, the thief reported this guy that I know, and Lowe's fired him. So, not only do the companies never care about you before, if you try to do something good and righteous and be a good person, like no good deed goes unpunished, and that's never more true than it is now. So not only do actions have consequences, inactions also too have consequences. Right now we have several different classes of individuals become more stark. Right before society collapses, things get really, really polarized. And never has there been a more polarized point in time in American history. Not going back through history can I find one other than like 1776. I can't think of anything other than 1776, where Americans have been more diametrically opposed. They're just rabid insanity. You know, what is good is bad. What is bad is good, up is down, left is right, dark is light, light is dark. I mean, the world is absolutely upside down, backwards, and insane, and everybody is just, not everybody. When I say everybody, I'm making a generalization. People are like, you're generalizing, there's tons of great people out there, my family. When I make a generalization is an accurate truism because it is generally accurate, that people have become absolutely unhinged out there. There is a void that is being filled with things that you don't want it filled with. An absence of law and order, an absence of stopping shoplifters. People's like, oh, that's only happening in San Francisco, and New York, and Chicago, and Miami, and Tampa. Like, no, it really is. It's happening in Bumblescum, Kansas. It's happening in Lexington, Kentucky. It's happening in places you're not hearing about. It is happening there, too. Right now, demons are propagating misery for desire and control. The unhinged who have no emotional control nor a rational mind. And there's so many people out there that are just such spineless cowards, and the numbers are increasing. And they're just bowing and complicit to evil and the unhinged. The situations are now, and I've been preaching this for decades, that, you know, when seconds count, the cops are minutes away. This doesn't make me anti-cop, it's just a statement of fact that people that are sovereign citizens who have rights over, you know, protecting their own life, the cops are not going to be there. Every cop on earth, I don't care what you think about cops. I don't give a single hoot in Hades what you think. The facts are every cop out there, every one of them, will tell you that 99.9999% of the time they're going to show up there after everything's gone down. Now it is the case that people know they're really not going to show up, especially for things that are insignificant, like, well, you know, my business is going bankrupt because they're robbing it blind, and these entities know that the cops are not going to show up. Now I can't open my business because I lose more money. If I keep the doors locked and let nobody in, I'll have more money at the end of the day because nothing is getting stolen. You just can't run a business like that. So this is a planned collapse. When things go wild, this is where things snowball. Things go more wild because everybody now is a spineless coward and they're unwilling to help anybody. There's so many instances out there where bad things are going down. Nobody does anything. It's like they're watching something on the internet. They'll whip out their phones and start recording it. It's like, why don't you put down your stinking phone and help this, poor old lady or whatever that's, getting, horrible things or stolen or worse done to her. No, you're going to whip out your phone and record it. I've asked an enormous amount of people over these past few years, and more so recently, about theft and about the reset. Everybody I've asked about. I've not asked a single person about a reset that doesn't know what's going on. It's like, well, and I want to say, but I just roll my eyes and go on. It's like, well, what are you doing about it? I'm like, okay, you admit that there is one. What are you doing? You're going, well, I ain't going to do nothing about it. What am I going to do? I'm just one person. That sort of mentality is why it's being wrought upon you. It's a sheep mentality. Anyway, 4 types of people, not just sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs. Now there's a whole lot more sheep. Doesn't have to be as many wolves, but the landowners have gotten more powerful. The landowners are letting the wolves go after the sheep because the landowners have an insurance policy on the sheep. So they don't care if the wolves hit some of the sheep. I'm insured. That's not a problem. Same is true of these super large entities that are propagating the evils under the guise of capitalism, but which is not capitalism, it's actually corporatism. Like, so-and-so hospital killed Granny. What are you going to do? Get a lawyer and sue a mega-billion-dollar company? Well, yeah, I guess I can't do anything, I'm asking what your position on this is. Things are snowballing, and they are snowballing fast. And that's not my opinion, that's not my feeling, that's not my belief. Food's getting more expensive. People's credit cards that they've been using to live off of is running out. Bills keep going up. There's a lack of law and order. And in the vacuum of a lack of law and order, insert cube A. I'll let you take a wild guess. If you have 2 brain cells, you'll figure out what gets put in the vacuum created by a lack of law and order. And whatever you think about police officers one way or another, which I really don't care. I'm only interested in facts, logic, and wisdom, and what's rationally true, provable, and demonstrable, and follows natural order. I mean, if you're a low-paid cop, which represents about 99% of cops, low-paid, you're not going to stick your neck out for anyone or anything because so many people are just so happy to sue you, get you fired. You're going to be back there eating peanuts watching it go, I'm not going to stick my neck out for this. You're a cop, aren't you supposed to? Nah, that's all right. No, I'm not going to do it. No, someone's going to film it, and they're going to claim I did something I didn't do or said something I didn't say. There's just a lack of rational people in this world now. And society's thin crust, which was always a thin crust over top of super volcano, the crust just keeps getting thinner and thinner. It's like we're sitting on top of Yellowstone, what is it? I think Yellowstone National Park, or is it Yosemite? I think it's Yosemite. There's Yellowstone Park, right? Sitting on a super volcano. Like it gets measured with laser measuring devices each year, and it keeps rising and rising. It's like, yeah, it's getting close. Mega blast. I don't know if any of us will be around to see that, but the one that's developing over society right now is accelerating exponentially at a multiplicative rate. Not additive rate, but a multiplicative rate. There's just way too many fragile little spineless cookies out there. Just so fragile. These colleges, I hate to say this, and I spent many years in college. These colleges are making fragile little snowflakes that have been taught that it's the noble to live in a nutshell and sniff your own flatulence. Being exposed to the real world is just, no, I can't deal with that. Nature doesn't work that way. Nature always eliminates out the weak. I mean, it sounds cruel, but that is the way nature works, and that is not up for argument or debate. These insulated little, fragile little cookies, you ever those little cookies where you just like barely touch it and it crumbles into dust? One of those? I forgot what cookie it is. Cookie, you can't even pick it up. It wants to crumble. these colleges are turning all of those kids into that. And not only that, they're paying money. Like this professor who's been fired. She's saying, she actually, before she threw everything off the table, and that was the day before she stuck that thing up against the neck of that reporter, which I hope she gets sued over that. She said to the people that were controlling the table, which was a table in support of life. Yeah, what your position on that is, I couldn't care. Oh, you're triggering my students. When someone says you're triggering me or you're triggering my students, isn't this a fancy way of saying, I can't stand the truth? Prove me wrong. When someone says, I'm being triggered by, or you're triggering these people or students, or what they're saying is, I can't stand to hear the truth. I refuse to hear, I am offended by, I am angered by, I am unhinged by facts, logic, and rationality. I cannot handle that which is rational, logical, follows natural order. You have demonstrable facts and a reasoning behind it. I cannot argue it. If you can't argue it, then you don't understand it. And your position is not only weak, it's probably non-existent. If your weak position, whatever that is weak and non-existent, and you are triggered by hearing facts and reason, then you have been living in a fantasy land, no different than someone living in a nutshell sniffing their own flatulence. You're like that little cookie that you can't pick up. It's just so fragile, it just crumbles to dust. I forget what that is. I literally haven't had a cookie in years. Yeah, I know I'm fat, but I get fat off regular food, not sweets. But I do remember that cookie. It's like, oh, you just can't touch it. It's just ready to fall apart. Anybody that's fragile regarding whatever it is they think, feel, or believe, then their position is wrong, untenable, illogical, irrational, based in fantasy. And these people are unhinged. The world is literally getting more... We want to go to the grocery store, yeah? It's like, you're just getting old, people are different now. No, that's not it. I see these people. You can tell. They even have the... Not only do they look like it, but they have the aurora... I almost said aurora. The aura around them. The zeitgeist of their individuality. That says, I hate the truth. I can't stand being told the truth. I refuse to believe in truth, rationality, logic. I get angered by when someone says triggered by. And that's what triggered by means. It means I can't stand the truth. Someone says I'm triggered by it. It means no, you can't handle facts, logic, rationality. You can't argue it. If you can't argue it, then your position is not only weak, it's also non-existent. People are becoming more and more unhinged. The thin crust that sits over top of the supervolcano that is society, the glue that holds humanity together, is falling apart not at an additive rate, but at a multiplicative rate. Tell me what you think. Tell me I'm wrong. But if you're going to tell me I'm wrong, please provide evidences, logic, or rationale for that, because I am not wrong. And don't forget, there are 4 types of people in this world. The sheeps, meh, the wolves, and the sheepdogs, and the farm owner / landowner. I'll let you figure out who the farm owner / landowner is in the scheme of this thing. It's just getting worse. I've seen 2 evidences of that in the past 2 days here alone. So tell me what you think. Have a lovely day.